I saw Jake several times at work before we actually spoke. There was something in his gaze that tugged at me, a curiosity that went beyond professional interest. I wanted to know who he was, what made him tick, so I took the first step, introducing myself during a break at a company training seminar. "Hi, I'm Anna," I said, extending my hand with a smile that I hoped seemed friendly, but not overly eager. Jake's response was warm, his smile genuine. "Jake, I've seen you around. You're in the marketing department, right?" That's how it started. Simple, innocent. We found ourselves gravitating towards each other during coffee breaks, sharing bits and pieces of our lives. It was the kind of conversation that felt both easy and deep, a connection forming with every word. At home, things with Tom were different. It wasn't that he was unkind or neglectful. It was more about what wasn't there. The attention, the spark, the understanding. It all seemed to fade into the background of our daily routine. Each time Jake's laugh echoed in my mind, I couldn't help but notice the silence that had settled between Tom and me. Then came the dinner invitation from Jake. "It's just to discuss the project we've been assigned," he texted, but we both knew it was a thinly veiled excuse. The night was filled with laughter, shared stories, and a connection that seemed to blur the lines between right and wrong. And then the kiss. It was a moment of weakness, of longing, and admission of what we'd been trying to deny. We parted with a promise that it was a one-time mistake, but the longing in his eyes mirrored my own. Nights became a secret world of whispers and confessions, my phone a bridge between Jake and me. Texts turned into late-night calls, and photos were exchanged with a reckless abandon that ignored the reality of my life with Tom. Each picture I sent to Jake felt like a piece of myself I was giving away, pieces I no longer shared with my husband. It was thrilling, intoxicating, and utterly terrifying. But it was in those moments, alone with my phone, and whispering into the night, that I felt seen. Jake asked for pictures, not just any pictures, but ones that captured the real me, the me that I was starting to rediscover. With each click, I felt more alive, more vibrant than I had in years. Yet, beneath the exhilaration, a nagging voice reminded me of the line I was crossing, of the silent house around me, and of Tom, who slept unaware just rooms away. The thrill of the forbidden, the intensity of our connection, it all spiraled faster than I could have imagined. Every stolen moment with Jake was a step further away from my life with Tom, and yet I couldn't stop. I didn't want to stop. The realization hit me hard, a truth I was only beginning to understand. I was lost in the thrill of something new, something that felt like it could consume me if I wasn't careful. But caution was a voice drowned out by desire, and in the quiet of the night, with my phone as my confidant, I chose to listen to the call of a new love, a choice that would unravel the world as I knew it. The thrill of the forbidden took on a life of its own the moment Jake and I started meeting in secret. Work became our alibi, a cover so perfect it was almost too easy. "I have to stay late again, big project," I'd tell Tom, my voice steady over the phone, betraying none of the guilt that gnawed at me. Jake and I communicated through encrypted messages, a digital veil that made our liaison feel like a spy game. It was exhilarating, intoxicating, and with every secret meeting, I sank deeper into the web we were weaving. The audacity of our affair escalated when I invited Jake to our house. It was a day I knew Tom would be out of town on business, the house eerily silent, every creak and whisper magnifying the gravity of what I was doing. But as Jake crossed the threshold, all hesitation melted away, replaced by a desire that clouded judgment and morality. I didn't feel bad about it. The thrill overshadowed the guilt, at least in the moment. But reality has a way of intruding on even the most carefully constructed fantasies. During a family gathering, Tom's gaze lingered on me longer than usual, his eyes probing, searching for something I wasn't ready to reveal. "You seem distant lately," he commented later that evening, away from the prying eyes and ears of our family. "Is everything okay?" His voice was laced with concern, not accusation, but it still made me defensive. "It's just work stress," I lied smoothly, avoiding his gaze. "You know how it is." The balance I thought I had mastered began to teeter dangerously when I made a critical mistake. One morning, in a rush to get ready, I left my phone unlocked on the kitchen counter. Tom had never been one to snoop, but fate, it seemed, had other plans. When I returned to retrieve it, the air felt different, charged with an unspoken tension I couldn't quite place. It was around this time that Jake and I, driven by reckless abandon, planned a weekend getaway. I told Tom I'm attending a work conference. I whispered to Jake over the phone, the lie tasting bitter in my mouth. The trip was a point of no return, a bold step into territory there was no coming back from. We were delving deeper into the deceit, and part of me knew we were hurtling toward an inevitable disaster. Tom's quiet investigation began without my knowledge. There were no confrontations, no accusations, just a silent gathering of evidence that would eventually shatter the precarious facade I had built around myself. The signs were there, subtle changes in Tom's demeanor, questions that seemed innocuous but carried a weight I wasn't ready to acknowledge. Our secret weekend was filled with stolen moments and whispered promises, a temporary escape from the reality waiting for us back home. But as we returned, the air of our small deception felt stifling, heavy with unspoken truths and impending consequences. The web of lies Jake and I had woven was unraveling, and the fallout, I feared, would be catastrophic. The night Tom followed us was unbeknownst to me, a hidden chapter unfolding in the shadows of my deceit. As Jake and I walked hand in hand under the moonlit sky, lost in our bubble of forbidden love, we were oblivious to the eyes that watched us from a distance. Tom saw everything, the kisses we stole like thieves, the way we touched as though we belonged to each other. It was a scene of intimacy reserved for lovers, a painful spectacle for any husband to witness. Feeling the weight of my actions never came naturally. Instead, I found myself justifying the affair, blaming Tom's perceived neglect for my own betrayal. If he had paid more attention, maybe, I'd tell myself, a feeble attempt to shift the guilt. But deep down I knew I was living a lie, balancing on a tightrope between two lives, convincing myself that Tom was none the wiser. It was a dangerous game of self-deception, one that I played with a growing sense of desperation. Meanwhile, Tom was taking steps I hadn't anticipated. His silent agony transformed into action as he met with a private investigator, a move born out of the need to confront the truth with evidence. His planning was meticulous, a stark contrast to the chaotic whirlwind of my emotions. Tom's world had been shattered, yet he moved with a purpose, gathering the pieces not to rebuild, but to reshape his future. The pressure from Jake intensified, his words painting pictures of a life filled with passion and freedom. "We can start fresh, just you and me," he'd say, his voice laced with promises of a better future. The temptation tugged at my heart, pulling me further away from the life I had built with Tom. Yet amidst the allure of a new beginning, a sense of guilt and responsibility anchored me. The thought of leaving Tom, of tearing apart the life we shared, filled me with dread. I was torn, caught between the comfort of my marriage and the excitement of the unknown with Jake. The decision to end the affair came with a heavy heart. I chose to do it through a message, a cowardly attempt to avoid facing the consequences of my actions. "This can't go on, I'm sorry," I typed, the words on the screen doing little to convey the turmoil within. It was an attempt to close a chapter, to somehow navigate my way back to the life I had jeopardized. But closure wasn't mine to dictate. Jake's response wasn't what I expected. Instead of accepting the end, he sent a heartfelt letter to my home, a tangible reminder of the love he believed we shared. But the letter never reached me. Tom intercepted it, each word a confirmation of the betrayal he had suspected. The letter was a piece of evidence, undeniable and raw, laying bare the lies I had so carefully woven. In the aftermath of discovery, the illusion of my double life crumbled. The strain of maintaining the facade, the lies I told myself and others, all came crashing down. Tom's silence was louder than any confrontation, a quiet testament to the depth of his pain. The reality of my actions and their impact on our lives became impossible to ignore. The choices I made, driven by selfish desires and fleeting moments of passion, had altered the course of our lives irrevocably. As the consequences of my betrayal unfolded, I was left to face the truth I had long sought to escape. In a desperate attempt to salvage what remained of my marriage, I suggested to Tom that we take a vacation together. The words tumbled out of me, a plea wrapped in the guise of rekindling our relationship. I was oblivious to the storm brewing beneath Tom's calm exterior, to the knowledge he harbored like a silent dagger. To my surprise, Tom agreed. "Yes, that might be good for us," he said, his voice devoid of the enthusiasm I'd hoped for. It was a consent that carried the weight of unspoken intentions, a strategy veiled in acquiescence. The night before our departure, the air between us was charged with a tension that I tried to ignore. Tom had been unusually quiet, and I attributed it to pre-trip jitters. However, the reality was far more devastating. As I was finalizing our packing, Tom entered the room, his demeanor calm but his eyes betraying a storm of emotions. He handed me a folder, his voice steady. "I think you need to see this." The contents of the folder left me speechless. Photos, messages, undeniable evidence of my betrayal laid bare. The walls of denial I had built crumbled under the weight of truth. I scrambled for explanations, for words that could somehow mend the gaping wound I had inflicted on our marriage. But words I realized were futile against the raw, visual testimony of my disloyalty. Tom listened to my stammered attempts at justification with a quiet resignation. "I filed for divorce," he said, his voice devoid of anger or bitterness, only a profound sadness. "Our marriage is beyond repair." The finality in his tone shattered any illusions of reconciliation I might have harbored. The divorce proceedings were swift, Tom's evidence leaving no room for contention. The settlement was decidedly in his favor, a reflection of the gravity of my actions. As I signed the papers, a sense of loss enveloped me, not just for the dissolution of our marriage, but for the person I had become in the process. Jake, the catalyst of my downfall, retreated in the face of impending drama and legal complexities. His withdrawal was a bitter pill, leaving me to face the repercussions of our affair alone. The realization that I had lost both men due to my own decisions was a haunting epiphany. Moving out of the family home marked the beginning of my new reality. I found a small apartment and started a low-profile job, each day a reminder of the cost of my choices. The transition was challenging, filled with moments of regret and introspection. Meanwhile, Tom's life flourished in the wake of our divorce. He embraced personal growth and rediscovered hobbies he had neglected, crafting a life that was fuller and more content without me. His transformation was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a stark contrast to the stagnation I felt. Driven by a longing for closure, I reached out to Tom, hoping for a conversation that might mend the fragments of our past. But he politely declined, his refusal a clear indication that he had moved on completely. The finality of his decision was a mirror to the choices I had made, choices that had irrevocably altered the course of our lives. In the silence of my apartment, I reflected on the journey that had brought me to this point. The actions I had taken, driven by fleeting desires, had culminated in a profound loss. The quest for something more had left me with far less, a paradox that I would spend countless nights contemplating. As I faced the days ahead, I knew that the path to redemption was fraught with challenges, but it was a journey I was now compelled to undertake, one day at a time. Hearing about Tom through the grapevine of mutual friends was a jolt out of my self-imposed isolation. Words like successful, thriving, and happy peppered the descriptions of his new life, each one a sharp reminder of the void I'd created in my own. The news of his achievements and contentment was supposed to bring me a sense of closure, perhaps even a muted happiness for him. Instead, it deepened the well of my regret, the realization of what I had lost and thrown away, becoming painfully clear. The initial shock of our divorce among friends and family had gradually given way to a broad acceptance and eventually support for Tom's decision. The narrative had shifted from one of betrayal and downfall to a story of resilience and renewal. His dignified handling of our split, contrasted with my own messy entanglement, tilted the scales of sympathy firmly in his favor. I found myself on the fringes of the social circles we once shared, facing a loneliness that was as much about the loss of companionship as it was about the loss of respect and understanding. Jake's departure from the city felt like the final act of abandonment, leaving me to navigate the aftermath of our decisions alone. His move was practical, a step forward in his career, but for me, it was the closing of a door I had never fully stepped through, a bittersweet end to a chapter that had caused so much upheaval. As I attempted to rebuild my life, the shadow of my past actions loomed large, coloring my interactions with a hue of mistrust and wariness. New relationships, both personal and professional, were marred by the stigma of my decisions, making it difficult to forge ahead without the weight of judgment. When I learned that Tom had met someone new, a woman who appreciated his qualities I had once cherished, it served as a stark reminder of the depth of my folly. The knowledge of his moving on wasn't just a blow, it was a reinforcement of my solitude, a clear sign that life was progressing for him, as it should, while I remained ensnared in the consequences of my actions. The arrival of the divorce papers was a procedural step, but it felt like a physical manifestation of my new reality. Signing them was both an act of surrender and a painful acceptance of the end of what we had built together. The symbolic removal of our wedding picture from the living room, replaced by a landscape painting, marked Tom's definitive step towards new horizons, horizons that no longer included me. Financial difficulties soon followed, the divorce settlement and my reduced lifestyle colliding to create a perfect storm of economic hardship. Adjusting to this new reality was another layer of challenge, a tangible reminder of the far-reaching implications of my choices. Meanwhile, Tom's career took off in ways that seemed directly tied to his personal renewal. A promotion, long overdue, came his way, a testament to the intertwined nature of personal well-being and professional success. His upward trajectory served as a contrast to my own stagnant circumstances, a divergence rooted in the choices we had each made in the wake of our shared crisis. As I navigated my diminished circumstances, the gap between our paths grew wider, a daily reminder of the cost of betrayal and the price of seeking happiness outside the commitments we make. The journey of rebuilding my life was fraught with reminders of what I had sacrificed for fleeting moments of passion, each step forward a lesson in the values of loyalty, commitment, and the irreplaceable depth of genuine love. The moment I stepped into the counselor's office, I felt a blend of nervousness and determination. This was the first concrete step I'd taken towards understanding myself, and the whirlwind of choices that had led me to this low point. Sitting on the soft couch, I poured out my story, omitting nothing. The counselor listened without judgment, guiding me through the maze of my emotions and decisions. It was the beginning of a long journey of self-improvement, a path I was committed to, no matter how arduous. Meanwhile, Tom's happiness unfolded publicly, his new relationship blooming under the gaze of our mutual friends and on social media. Each picture, each declaration of love between him and his partner, served as a stark reminder of what I had squandered. The contrast between our lives couldn't have been more pronounced, deepening the well of regret within me. I reached out to old friends, hoping to mend fences, to rebuild some of the bridges I had so carelessly burned. But the attempts were mostly met with polite refusals or silence. The trust that once formed the foundation of these friendships had been irreparably broken, leaving me to face the consequences of my actions largely alone. When Tom announced his engagement, it was celebrated widely, a testament not just to his ability to love and trust again, but to the support system that rallied around him. The engagement party, a joyous occasion for many, underscored my social exile, reinforcing the isolation my decisions had wrought. Holidays and significant dates passed in solitude, each one a poignant reminder of the family I had once been a part of the love and trust I had so thoughtlessly discarded. These moments, heavy with reflection, underscored the permanence of my choices. In an effort to find some semblance of purpose, I started a small blog. Sharing my story anonymously, I hoped to offer a cautionary tale, to deter others from the path I had taken. The blog found a modest following, and the act of writing became a therapeutic outlet, a way to connect with others even as I remained shrouded in anonymity. Tom's engagement party, attended by many who I once considered friends, was a celebration I learned of through whispers and distant social media updates. My absence was a silent testament to the cost of my betrayal, to the life I'd once been a part of but was now firmly outside of. A chance encounter with Tom at a mutual friend's event was a moment of stark realization. The polite nod we exchanged was a chasm of unspoken words, a palpable gulf of what once was and what could never be again. His subsequent marriage, a beautiful ceremony celebrated widely, marked not just his happiness but a symbol of his rebirth, of a life rebuilt from the ashes of our failed marriage. News of Tom's marriage and later, the announcement of his expecting child, reached me through the distant lens of social media, evoking a complex tapestry of emotions. Sorrow for what I had lost, yes, but also relief and a genuine hope for his happiness. A happiness that he had found without me. As I slowly built a new circle of acquaintances, focusing on authenticity and transparency, I felt the beginnings of a transformation. Tom's journey into fatherhood, shared openly with love and support from those around him, was a poignant reminder of the joys I had denied myself. The decision to move to a new city was born of a need for a fresh start, a chance to rebuild away from the memories and people that tied me to a past I needed to leave behind. In this new environment, I began to form genuine connections, slowly piecing together a life marked by humility and understanding. As I settled into this new life, finding peace in the solitude that once terrified me, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. The pain caused by my actions, the growth spurred by introspection and accountability, marked a chapter of my life that was both a profound lesson and a stark warning. Tom's celebration of his child's first birthday, a milestone I learned of through the distant echo of social media, was a testament to his contentment and fulfillment. For me, it underscored a quiet acceptance of my new reality, a life built on the understanding of the value of integrity and the irrevocable cost of my choices. Settled in my new city, I found peace not in the company of others, but in the solitude that allowed for reflection. Contemplating what could have been, I acknowledged the non-positive conclusion of my own making, a silent vow to live each day with the integrity that my past self had so carelessly discarded. This was my path now, one of redemption and self-discovery, marked not by what I had lost, but by what I had found within myself, a resilience and a commitment to live a life defined by